Hi, I'm Ellen Pompeo, and I would like to introduce you to my new podcast, Tell Me. I'm going to invite people that I find interesting to come on and tell me their stories. That's where Tell Me comes from. Listen and follow Tell Me, a podcast presentation of Cadence 13 with me, Ellen Pompeo, now for free on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Shopping for a new car can be fun and frustrating. Other car shopping sites share and sell your personal information, which means your phone and inbox get lit up and you can't make it stop. OneRequest does not sell or share your personal information, and that puts you in control of your shopping experience. At OneRequest, you communicate with dealers anonymously. When you're done shopping, simply delete your request and all communication stops. Hello, car? Goodbye, spam. Don't just search for your next car. OneRequest it. Visit OneRequest.com today.
Hey, it's Mraz. It was another day of takes, laughs, and memorable moments. Keep it locked here. It's the best of the DA show.
We will begin in Philadelphia. We'll get to that Game 5, Dodgers and Giants. But in Philly, the Buccaneers trying to continue their march to a second consecutive Super Bowl. And coming into the game, it's now something we don't even really talk about all that much, although Buck and Aikman certainly were last night, in that Tom Brady's great. We all know Tom Brady's great. We are not seeing the supposed erosion that we always see with QBs as they get up there in age, and he's farther up there in age than anybody else. At 44 years old, you would imagine there are moments, there are games where he just looks his age. It has yet to happen. In fact, he is leading the league in multiple passing categories going into last night. Now he has a game up on everybody else, but going into last night. In fact, with the extra 17th game this year, Tom Brady came into last night on pace for more than 6,000 yards passing. That obviously would be an NFL single-season record. Yes, that is with the extra game, but it goes to show you that even without an extra game, he is right now on pace for statistically perhaps his greatest quarterback season at 44, which is all types of ridiculous because last night the Buccaneers jumped out to a 28-7 lead on the road, then had to hold on late, but kind of made it look easy. And they were without Rob Gronkowski last night. And one of the reasons that you can't ever take this for granted is that not only does Tom Brady look like this and is this efficient at 44 years old, but he's also recreating, rebooting, or enhancing other guys' careers, namely Antonio Brown. I mean, AB has been the ultimate reclamation project. He has been at the lowest of the lows in recent NFL years, and now he has become one of the most dynamic and dangerous wide receivers in the NFL yet again. And last night, there were a couple of plays that really, to me, typified just how special Brady is still and what he's doing with Antonio Brown. The first was a brilliant touchdown, a wonderful read where Brady just fitted into a very specific window, and then AB was able to use the jets to turn it on and get into the end zone. That was a big early touchdown for them. The second play was late in this game. Actually, the Eagles had closed this to a 28-22 lead in the fourth quarter. And the Buccaneers, having been helped out by a very questionable taunting call to begin the series, had a 3rd and 7 from the 45-yard line with about 3 minutes to play, okay? 3rd and 7, 3:24, and the clock is running. Now, Philly has 2 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. So if they get the stop here on 3rd and 7, they trail by 6. They'll get the football back, and they've got 3 time stoppages. Plenty of time to go down the field and try to get that game-winning touchdown. But on 3rd and 7, Brady did what Brady does. And he found the guy who he has rebooted his career. How is Brady making this look so easy at times? It is where we begin. Your cold open.
Here is the snap. Brady, play action fake, dropping, flush out of the pocket, looks toward the, throws a ball, caught ball at the 5. Antonio Brown, touchdown Tampa Bay. He made the catch, did a pirouette at the 5, and dove into the end zone. And the Bucs take the lead at 13-7. 3 receivers to the left of Brady. Cameron Brate on the right edge of the tie. Here's the snap. Brady looking. Throws the ball outfield, caught ball. Antonio Brown inside the 20-yard line. He's to the 15. What a throw on the run by Tom. I thought Tom Brady may try to run and turn a 40-yard gain into 13 like he did last week.
It's a good win. You know, it's tough to win on the road. And obviously we didn't play our best, so we got to get back to work. We got a, good little break here, use it, and then get back to work, see if we can get better.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge to keep the lead in our division. And anytime you can win road games, it's big. And I've always said if you can win your home games and split on the road, you'll be in the playoffs every year.
I don't believe it! The most amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending.
It's DA's top story.
Here he goes!
It's your cold open.
That was the legendary voice of the Buccaneers, Gene Deckerhoff, on Buccaneers Radio. And that was, of course, Tom Brady and Bruce Arians. Tom Brady last night throws for 297 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He gets it to Antonio Brown, 9 catches for 93 yards, and that what you heard on that third down was actually the longest. But Brady also found O.J. Howard for 6 catches, 49. Leonard Fournette out of the backfield, 6 catches as well. Chris Godwin had 5 catches. Mike Evans had a pair. Cameron Brate had 3 catches as well, including a big one in the red zone. Ronald Jones caught a pass, and Giovanni Bernard caught 2. Brady is seeing everything because of his experience. Brady is completely in control of everything that is happening on the football field because he has seen everything. And Brady's quickness with his decisions and quickness with his release are a combination that has never been seen in NFL history at this age. See, this is the thing. Brady is doing something that nobody's ever done because as you get older, all of these quarterbacks will tell you, game slows down, you've seen every defense, you know what to do, but there's that crisscrossing arc where as your wisdom goes up, your physical abilities go down. And that's forever been the issue, that when you are at the peak of your powers physically, you still aren't in complete control or at the peak of where you will be mentally because you've got a ways to go in terms of seeing everything on the field, being in every type of different situation, seeing every type of different defense, every different type of road scenario, etc. Brady has now seen everything multiple times, but because physically his arm has not deteriorated, and because physically his shoulder has not deteriorated, and because physically his release is not deteriorated, he is now surgical in everything that he does. And what you're seeing from Brady to me is what a championship boxer does. He feels out the defense, knowing what the game plan is. Jab here, body blow there, shot here. He's feeling out the defense. He understands his game plan. And then when it's there, he takes the big shot. It's not like Brady keeps going downfield for huge plays constantly. He's not just chucking it downfield hoping for pass interferences, but they'll take a deep shot when they soften up the defense. But most of Brady's damage is done on the short to intermediate routes. And is he perfect? Of course not. Nobody is. Is every throw perfect? Of course not. But Brady's experience plus keeping his physical attributes high has made him a king of the chessboard. And last night with Antonio Brown, that 3rd and 7 ices the game. And on 3rd and 7, on a road venue with a 1-score game, and you heard the crowd there going crazy, a lot of quarterbacks could get a little shell-shocked. A lot of quarterbacks could sail it. A lot of quarterbacks could eat it and say, hey, I'm not going to turn this football over. Brady pats it, rolls out a little bit to the right, sees Antonio Brown, slings it to Brown perfectly. Brown hauls it in, turns upfield, 27-yarder, game, set, match, and then they run out the clock. Eagles never get the football back. It's just chess right now for Brady, and it's incredible to watch. The Buccaneers move to 5-1 and now have a long week. All right, so hit me up on the phones if you want to talk about the Bucs and Eagles game last night. There's plenty to go about when it comes to the Eagles as well. I mean, Nick Sirianni's head-scratching decision just never to run the football with a running back is bizarre at best. The taunting call was a disaster. We got to talk about that as well. Let's talk about last night's Game 5, Dodgers and Giants, shall we? Intense game. And the way that it ought to be between these two teams. The Giants had won one more game in the regular season, 107 wins. The Giants had 100. The Dodgers had 106. Now, in any other division this year, the Dodgers win the division by a long shot. 106 would have demolished anybody in the National League East, the National League Central. It would have won the American League Central, the American League West by far, and would have topped the Rays, the third best record in baseball, by 6 games. So the Dodgers, who were a wild card team, would have run away with any other division had they been there. But instead, they just faced off against the Giants with 107. Now, it's interesting because remember back in 1993, it was remembered as the last great pennant chase. It was the last great pennant race because in 93, you had the Braves and Giants still with only 2 teams in each league that made the playoffs, the AL West, the AL East, the NL East, the NL West. You had to win your division to make the playoffs. Braves and Giants down to the wire. And both those teams had such phenomenal seasons. Ultimately, the Braves win on the final day of the season. And the Giants have to go home that don't even get into the postseason despite winning more than 100 games that year. And that's oftentimes cited as, number one, the last great pennant chase, but also the reason for the wild card. That in and of itself caused Bud Selig to say, we can't ever have a team win 103 games and go home. That was the Giants that year. They won 103 games and went home. Well, in this case, they won 107 games and went home after just 5. Because last night they lose 2-1 in a thriller to the Dodgers, the hated Dodgers. So this one might be a little bit more palatable because you got a full series, quote unquote. You got a 5-game series. This one might be slightly more palatable because you had your chance to win a Game 5 instead of leaving it up to somebody else to beat the Braves on that final day of 1993. But these are 2 of the most painful, great regular season exits of all time. 93 Giants and now 2021 Giants. Because, frankly, I'm not sure how fair this postseason was to the Giants. Or maybe the Dodgers as well. But in the case of the Giants, they won their division and they had to win 107 games to do so. And then, in their first round, got the second best team in baseball. So what did they earn for winning their division and being the best team in baseball? They didn't get the worst team. They got the second best team. And ultimately, that's the way that this thing gets formatted because if you don't win your division, you're part of the one-game wild card, and then the one-game wild card faces off against the best team in your league, and that was the Giants. And so that's why this happened, and you would say, well, the Dodgers had to win that one-game wild card. They had to burn a good pitcher in it. They came into this series, your series, with less rest. You could set up your pitching rotation and all of that. But at the end of the day, the San Francisco Giants won more games than anybody else in baseball, and in their first round got a division rival that was the second best team in baseball. So it's a tough pill to swallow, on top of how it ended, which was a disaster, which was an absolute disaster. Here's how it sounded with Brian Anderson and Ron Darling on TBS last night as the Dodgers lead 2-1, bottom 9. Scherzer's on the hill for the Dodgers, trying to get the save and close the door. There's 2 away for the Giants and a runner on first base. So the tying runner is on, and here's Wilmer Flores with 2 strikes at the plate.
And Flores, did he go? He did! And the game ends! A swinging strike 3.
No.
Gabe Morales rings him up. The game is over, and the Los Angeles Dodgers are headed to the National League Championship Series. A controversial finish. The Dodgers advance.
I didn't think he went on the slider from Max. Gabe Morales thought he did.
Boy, what a way to end the game.
Oh,
man,
boy,
he didn't go.
that's bad.
I don't think he went.
That's bad.
Can't end the game that way. But it's over. It's not reviewable. It's in the books.
Credit an excellent baseball broadcaster in Ron Darling for catching it as it happened. As he punches out Wilmer Flores, you hear in that clip Darling going, no, oh, no. And then they look at the replay, and it's even worse. It's absolutely horrendous. Gabe Morales makes the mistake of his career. That is the mistake of a lifetime. It just is. It just is because, look, 2-1 game, 2 106-plus win teams deciding game number 5, and you put the ball in your hands as the ump. You don't even let the batter make a decision or the pitcher make a decision. That is not a swing. It's not even close. It's not even like you can argue it one way or the other. It did not come around. It's nowhere close to crossing the plate. It is not a strike. That is not a swing. It's not even close to a swing. So Gabe Morales ends a classic game in a classic series between 2 of the best teams of the recent decade with a called strike that's a mistake. It's a butcher of a call for his career. It's going to end up being the worst call of his career. It has to be. There's so much on the line right there, and it's that bad of a mistake. So there's no way to rationalize that called strike. But again, what makes it even worse is the Giants really should have had the Braves. You know, they really should have, because the Braves were the worst team record-wise in the NL playoffs, 88 wins. We'll see. If the Dodgers lose to the Braves, then the Braves have the laughing rights. And you can say, well, DA, you don't know how it would end up. Anybody, any game. That's true. But if you're the Giants and you win 106 games or 107 games, would you rather have your division rival that was 1 game less than you or the 88-win Braves in the first round? You know, I don't know if this will change anything. It might not reseed the next round. But there was a reason that before the 1-game wild card, they did not pit 2 division rivals against one another in the first round. They wanted to make sure that division rivals, because of familiarity purposes, it wouldn't punish the number 1 seed, so they would split them up before the CSs. I'm not sure that's the perfect solution either, but if you're a Giants fan, the pain is real today because that's an awful call to end the game, and who you faced was not a reward, really. Again, Dodgers, they had to use a good pitcher to get into that round and were on less rest, but the Dodgers were the second-best team in baseball, and you only got 5 games, not even a 7-game series, to get by them. Bogues, what did you think about Gabe Morales' call last night? Is there anything left to be said, really?
I mean, the only saving grace for me is that it was a human mistake. It was not them or him specifically misapplying a rule. I mentioned this to Pete off the air, going back using the Red Sox Rays ground rule double as an example. Like, had they applied the rule book incorrectly to change a play, to allow a play to happen that changed the game, ended the series, I'd probably be a little bit more mad and frustrated this morning and talking about taking them out of the postseason rotation. MLB has to say something about this. My assumption is he just made an honest mistake, that he didn't in the moment decide, this is ump show time, I'm going to punch him out.
No, I agree.
He just thought he saw something he didn't see. So I have a tiny bit of sympathy for that.
No, I agree with you. I don't think that this is him showing up anybody, him trying to grab control of the game. But it's a huge blunder. It's a huge mistake. It's at the end of a playoff game in the NFL, an ump saying that that's pass interference and put it at the 1 yard line on 4th and 8, and then the winning team punches in for the touchdown, and there was nothing there. I mean, that's the fact, that there was nothing there, and he called it a strike to end the football game there. So it's just a brutal way to end that game and that series and the Giants season. What do you think about the formatics here that the Giants had to get the Dodgers?
So I went back and looked the first time, because it was my first thought too. You mentioned this as the postseason was beginning, and I went back and looked at the last 3 or 4 full seasons. So I didn't count last year because it was only 60 games. So 2019, 18, 17, 16, and clearly nothing like this has happened before, where you had 107 versus 106 wins in the same division to the very last day. And for the most part, in both leagues over these last 3 or 4 years, it has basically gone the way that it should have. They kind of, naturally lined up 1 through 5 record-wise through the division winners and the 2 wild cards. There was one instance, and I don't have the note anymore in front of me, where I think Cleveland, there was one part where it was just a little bit off, where the wild card had a few too many wins more than one of the division winners. But otherwise, this has never happened before. So part of me thinks that it may never happen again for a couple more years here. I don't know if it's enough of an impetus to actually change it. My bigger gripe this morning, honestly, is that the Dodgers, after 106 wins, are the road team in the NLCS. You want to give division winners a benefit in round 1 to avoid wild cards? Okay, fine. But things should now reset, and the Braves should absolutely be playing Game 1 at Dodger Stadium Saturday, not hosting it.
Yep, and this is a complaint that I have about the NFL playoffs quite a bit, is that, a wild card team that's 11-5 goes on the road to an 8-8 division winner. And I just think that records should dictate where those postseason games are played. In this case, the Dodgers are a road team with 106 wins simply because of geography, because they were in the same division as the Giants, will be on the road starting out against an 88-win Braves team. That is not right. But the Dodgers are still playing. Let's say this about the Dodgers. Their pitching last night was phenomenal. I always kind of felt like the Giants' 107 was a little fugazi anyway. I'm not sure that this is the day to gloat about that, because the Giants kind of got robbed last night. They were trailing there, so it was 2-1. I mean, Flores has to get on. They have to drive in the runner from first base to tie the game. Runs were at a premium, so Gabe Morales doesn't make that call. I'm not sure that the Giants end up scoring anyway. It was so difficult for them to put any runs on the board. But the Giants' offense always felt this. Their entire team at 107 was like, is this real? Is this not real? The Dodgers' pitching rotation last night and how Dave Roberts set it up, from the opener into Gratterall, right through to Scherzer in the 9th inning, they were pretty nasty. They held their own. They gave up only that 1 run, the big bomb to center field. But overall, Bogues, the Dodgers, known for their lineup, last night, their pitching was what carried the day.
And I know that there are a lot of people that hate the opener, and there are times where it's super annoying. And even me, I've been frustrated in a playoff game going, you don't have another starter to actually begin a game. But last night was the perfect time to use one, because going to Knebel and then Gratterall and then Arias, you're forcing the Giants to have a lot of platoons, lefty, righty, in and out, switching things around. You mess them up by beginning the game that way. And the Red Sox did it to the Rays too. It affected how they used Austin Meadows in a couple of those lineups in that series, too. This is the time where it's a very, very, very smart, strategic move to go to an opener and make teams rethink who they're putting in their starting 9. And from the beginning to the end, because Knebel dodged some trouble early, it worked out basically flawlessly for the Dodgers.
Yep. Webb was great last night for the Giants. Arias was really, really good in his 4 innings in the middle of that game as well, except for the 1 run that he gave up. But overall, I mean, that was a pretty good game. 2 good staffs. Offense hard to come by. 2 great teams. And look, the Dodgers have to be the heavy favorites right now. I mean, they won 18 more games of the regular season than the Braves. If the Dodgers do not get past the Braves, this is a massive upset of the Dodgers. And the Dodgers are looking for, their 4th World Series appearance in 5 years, 6 years, something like that? And the Dodgers, this run that they are on is pretty remarkable for the last 7 or 8 years. I think this will be the 4th World Series appearance if they can get through the 88-win Braves in the NLCS.
Puffiness with football. Mraz gives you his NFL picks every week. It's Up the Gut, only on the DA Show.
The return of Mraz after the week being off after Peyton Jean was born on Sunday night. Mraz, good morning. What exactly was the moment during Chiefs and Bills that Peyton Jean came out?
It was during the weather delay that Michelle Tafoya was winding the whole broadcast down, and Danielle turned to me, screaming in the face, "Get the doctor now." I got the doctor. The doctor looked under the hood for replay, and there was hair, and there was a baby. And within 4 minutes, we had missed 1 drive of the Sunday night game. Peyton was born.
Oh, really? And then once Peyton was born, I assume that you missed the rest of the game.
Yes and no, because there was a lot of Danielle holding the baby, so I had one eye on the game. I made it to the end of the game, certainly awake, but I wasn't as locked in for sure. But I was through that, and the whole day, London, 1 o'clock window, Giants, Cowboys, I sat there. I got all those games in all day before that baby was born.
Up the Gut is sponsored by 5 Hour Energy. It's the one when you got to get stuff done. Drink it in seconds, feel it in minutes, lasts for hours, tastes great too. 5 Hour Energy when you're trying to have a baby delivered and watch your entire football weekend. And so you, with your child having just been born, still had one eye on a blowout game, Bills and Chiefs.
I was intrigued. I couldn't believe what Buffalo was doing offensively in that second half. And DA, look, I'm going to be honest with you. The doctors all cleared out. They give us the time. Danielle's doing, holding the baby. She's got her own moment going on. If I'm not physically holding the baby, of course, I'm watching that moment between them. But one eye's going, oh, my goodness, there's Josh Allen driving again.
All right, so normally on Football Fridays, you send out the topic lists and you include a link to your column and your picks. You did not do that because Connor's in for you today. I went to CBSSportsRadio.com where your picks usually live. I don't see it there either, so you're going to have to lead me through this. What's the first game that you are picking?
All right, my apologies. The pick, probably the column will be posted a little bit later on. I am just putting the finishing touches on this. We're actually going to start with my Giants, DA, at 1 o'clock on Sunday. They're getting 9.5 versus the Rams. By the way, I am 11-4 by far, kicking the tuchus of Connor and DA this year in Wizard of Odds and Connor's picks.
11-4. So you went 3-0 last week?
2-1. 2-1. I have not had a losing week yet.
11-4. Impressive.
All right.
Okay.
We go to the Meadowlands. Look, the Giants are getting 9.5 games, and by all accounts, if you listen to Bogus's update, 9.5 points. Daniel Jones looks like he's going to play in this game. He still has to pass one more hurdle. They get Sterling Shepard. They get Darius Slayton back. The Rams, by far, should win this game, will win this game. But this is a situation, Los Angeles coming from the West Coast to the East Coast, early time slot. The Giants actually honoring the 10th anniversary of the Super Bowl 46 team, so you might have a crowd that feels into it maybe for the last time all year with the Giants. The Giants last year without Saquon Barkley, who they won't have again, went on the road to Los Angeles and lost the game late where Daniel Jones could have put points in the end zone to win it, a very tight game. Also, if you're looking at any betting trends here to stay away from with the Rams are 1-5 in this stupidest trend you'd ever hear. In their last 6 games against the spread in Week 6, now that has nothing to do with this team, but more importantly, in their last 4 games that they've played versus a team with a losing record, you think favored heavily, they are 0-4 against the spread. They don't cover versus teams when they are heavy favorites when they are losing records. I think this game is a sneaky tight game. Giants get their hearts broke again late, but 9.5 points, way too much. I will grab the points with Big Blue here.
Giants plus 9.5. Okay, what's game number 2?
Game number 2, I think what could be the game of the day, the Cardinals and Browns out in Cleveland in the late window. We all saw what that Browns offense, which had been much maligned, can do as they went up back and forth in a shootout versus the Chargers. But the flip side of that, the negative, the Browns have been carried defensively and had no answer for Justin Herbert whatsoever last week. The Arizona Cardinals now come. They don't get that advantage of the Browns do playing this team in an early slot. The Cardinals will be well adjusted time-wise playing in the late window. Over, by the way, in this game, hit 5-1 in the last 6 games the Cardinals have played when they've allowed 15 points in the previous game like they did a week ago. I think the Cardinals here in this spot are going to score some points enough versus that Browns defense, and I just think that asking Baker Mayfield and the Browns offense to have back-to-back big weeks, now scoring 40-plus points would be unheard of anyway, is ridiculous. Cardinals thrive against the spread in October. They're 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 games in October. That is Kyler Murray's month. They are getting points here. It's 3.5. I wouldn't mind visiting this on the money line come Sunday. You could sometimes get this at 3 right now, depending on what book you're at. I'm going to grab the points with the Cardinals, and I'm going to reconsider betting them to win outright on Sunday.
Okay, and so now you got the Cardinals plus 3.5, and then the final pick of the NFL weekend.
I am going back to the Chiefs off a bad loss like we just talked about on Sunday night. Look, we did this stat a couple of weeks ago when I played the Eagles. Now it's been updated a little bit. They have failed to cover the spread in 13 of their last 16 games dating back to Week 10. They just don't cover. And now you're going to find a game here without Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We hope Tyreek Hill could play. Maybe defensively they need something to get going. Maybe Chris Jones finds his way back onto the field. Washington does score a lot of points, but here's the thing. We thought coming into this year, Washington's defense might be the best in the NFL. They haven't been. They've been atrocious. They've been awful. I'm actually going to go back to the Eagle game 2 weeks ago where we used that negative spread, but the Eagles found their way into 5 red zone touchdowns versus a Philadelphia defense you saw last night could have its moments as well. I'm only laying less than a touchdown here. It's 6.5 with the hook. I'm going to jump all over that. I think the Chiefs break a little bit of their trends, and you see what you saw 2 weeks ago versus the Eagles. I think too much for Washington to handle. Give me Kansas City off a bad loss, rebounding here, laying 6.5.
Okay, so you said you were 11-4 so far in the season?
Yes, I am.
11-4. The Wizard is 10-9-2. I will have your Wizard of Odds picks coming up in about an hour and a half from now. And what do we have at Connor as?
Connor is, he was 0-2-1 a week ago. I just had this stupid stat. He was 7-5, so he is 7-7-1.
He didn't get a win last weekend?
No, he was 0-2-1.
He went 3-0 to 0-2-1?
0-2-1. So he is, I think 3.5 games back of me now.
And what's the football food of the week?
DA, we're going second straight week to London. Here's the shocking stat of them all. Last week, I ate more on a football Sunday than I'd eaten in 2 years because the hospital did not stop feeding me. And out of nowhere, this hospital ran a Jets special for the dads in the place.
Huh.
DA, they had breakfast nachos on the menu for London.
Ooh.
At a hospital. Food was outstanding. Who would have thought it? They had me thinking we're back there with the Jags and Dolphins. Maybe Urban Meyer finds a way to win a game out of the country. Give me breakfast nachos, guys. Look, all your nacho favorites of some beans and jalapenos can still exist, but you get some breakfast sausage, some breakfast bacon, that cheese melts. You get some scrambled eggs. You throw them all on top of those chips. Nobody made rules about nachos. Rules don't exist on nachos. You don't have to have chopped beef or chicken. Make them breakfast style. I had them last week as I was sitting there thinking, does Daniel go into labor now? Does she go into labor later? We've been waiting. It didn't matter. I stuffed my face. I watched the Jets and Falcons. They did hospital breakfast nachos. I'm back on there making my own this week.
Breakfast nachos for the Sunday morning London game, Dolphins and Jags, huh?
Let's go. We're in London. We're having fun with you, London. And by the way, West Coast fans know what we're talking about anyway. They get it for those 10 a.m. local starts.
Breakfast nachos, your football food of the week. Take care of the baby. Take care of Danielle. We'll see you on Monday.
Sounds good, boys. Take care.
I want to play for you a clip from Brandon Staley. Staley, first-year head coach of the Chargers, and pretty obviously his offensive mind coming off the Sean McVay tree. We tend to make fun of all of these guys that get jobs just basically because they've, smelled the breath of Sean McVay. But Brandon Staley has clearly elevated Justin Herbert's level of quarterbacking, has helped immediately pay dividends to create the Chargers into a winner and a contender. But also, it seems like Brandon Staley has a pretty good head on his shoulders. He was asked this week about the John Gruden resignation, and an easy way out would have been, coach speak. That's not up to me. That's a different organization. You hate to see anybody, who's won a Super Bowl before go down like that. It's unfortunate. All the coach speak because of the coaching fraternity and protecting your own. I mean, geez, before the last set of emails forced John Gruden's resignation, Tony Dungy, who I really admired, Tony Dungy on Sunday Night Football is like, hey, let's move on. Not a big deal. Like, let's move on. Not a big deal. Okay. So the coaching fraternity is a closed one. They usually close up ranks. They usually circle the wagons, and they don't want to talk about other coaches getting fired, having to resign, etc. Brandon Staley did not run from this question. In fact, he laid out a pretty logical argument about why John Gruden had to resign or be fired, and that what John Gruden said was beyond the pale. Here was Staley earlier this week.
Respect and trust in this world are really, really difficult to achieve. And I think about all the people that were affected by those emails. Whether you're a person of color, whether you're a person, gender, your sexual orientation, the people that were affected by those emails, that's who I'm thinking about. Because it's a sacred mantle for someone to call you coach or someone to call you a leader. And trust is really, really hard to achieve in this world. It's really, really challenging to achieve. And especially with people, with those groups that I just mentioned. All right, and people are really guarded, all right, and they're skeptical of people because of emails like that. And I just think that, kindness and lifting people up and respecting people you don't know, I just think that, that's such a big part of our thing here is listening to people and learning about people, because I think what you'll discover is that we have so much more in common than not. And I think that, for someone like me, it's just incumbent upon you to set the example every single day so that people that were, talked about in those emails, that they don't need to feel that way. They shouldn't feel that way. And it's, hopefully, all of us can learn from this, that it's about bringing people together for me, so that people can become, the people that they dream about. And I think that, for me, leading this football team and being someone, hopefully we can, be a light for those people in those emails, that not everybody's like that there's far more people that will love you than the opposite. And hopefully this will be a chance for everybody to come together instead of go apart.
Brandon Staley, head coach, Chargers. Got to tell you, I did not expect that answer from him. I don't know Brandon Staley that well. We haven't had much exposure to him in situations. First-year head coach, only a month and a half into the job. But I was thoroughly impressed. Because what Staley said there was a much larger message than coaching a football team. The coaching of the football team was in there, but it was a much larger, much deeper message, which sometimes I wonder if head coaches of football teams are capable of. When you are completely invested in such a hyper-competitive industry like coaching, and you get fired, you get hired, the head coach above you gets fired, gets hired, you've got to move the family, you've gone here, you've gone there, assistant coach, junior college, small college, assistant coach, watching this much film, going out on this recruiting trip. There's not a lot of time, in my experience, of human development. These guys are so focused on career, and always looking over their shoulders because the axe could come, that it's rare to find head coaches that are really deep human beings. It's very, very rare. And especially young head coaches who haven't seen a lot of the world, it's even rarer. And it's even rarer for young head coaches to speak like that about a very successful older coach. John Gruden might be a knuckle dragger. He might be a bigot, but he's a Super Bowl winning champion and a head coach that was in a Ring of Honor for a team up until about 72 hours ago. What Brandon Staley said there was really important from two different aspects, and I got a lot of respect for both of them. Number one, look, I'm a leader, and I have to represent that every day in everything I do. John Gruden didn't. Gruden acted like that on the outside, said the things that leaders say, football players, and we want grit, and we got to fight, and we got to work, and all that stuff. But behind closed doors, didn't say things that leaders should say. And Brandon Staley says, I'm a leader. I have to be better. We have to be better. This is a sacred responsibility of leading people. That's number one. Number two, this is a very savvy observation from somebody who is not from a marginalized community. He's talking about African Americans, the gay community, women in this case as well, parts of society that for many, many years have been on the outside of the power structure. Inherently have a distrust of the people inside the power structure because they've been held out of the power structure for so long. And what Brandon Staley is saying is these emails or these things that John Gruden said or wrote only reaffirm that skepticism. If you are a gay athlete, and there are many in the NFL that are not out, I'll never forget talking to Carl Banks, and Carl Banks saying, we had two gay guys on the 86 Giants, on the 80s Giants. They couldn't come out, but we all knew. The team didn't care. The players didn't care. It was all about, can you help us win football games? But we can go back to the 80s, and there were guys in locker rooms that everybody knew were gay. And now we fast forward to the 2020s. We're nearly 40 years later. Only one guy is on an active roster that's openly gay. If you are part of that community and you're like, I don't know. Like, I think it's okay to come out, but I'm not quite sure. How's the world going to react? How will coaches react? I think my teammates are cool with it, but like GMs and coaches, and then you see this email or you read this email and here's John Gruden, who's one of the highest paid head coaches in the NFL, at the time was a Super Bowl winning head coach who was on TV every week as like the celebrity coach. And he's using the terminology to Roger Goodell, the F word, using other terminology, to say like, why is the NFL forcing them to draft Michael Sam? Like, that's such a joke. Well, suddenly all of that skepticism and worry that you had about how you're looked at is reaffirmed. It's like, yeah, of course. I knew I wasn't welcome here. I knew that's how they looked at me. I knew that they used that word for when they wanted to trash somebody. So what Staley is illuminating here is really important. It's, you got to be your best self all the time, every day, and it's hard. That's just a hard thing to do. But also, if you feel like certain parts of the community are skeptical of you, are paranoid of you, are distrustful of you, well, they've had a lot of reasons to be. I mean, we kind of feel like everybody should start at zero, and that would be great. But the world isn't like that. And Staley's acknowledging that. And he feels like he's got to be better so that it doesn't give more ammo to the things that people are paranoid about. Brandon Staley won a lot of points in my book with that answer.
Take advantage
advantage now of 0% financing for 72 months with approved credit, plus 10 years parts and labor on qualifying new Lennox systems from Midwest Heating. Dial 816-943-8787 for details or go to MidwestHeating.com.
The climate crisis is here. Time's slipping away to stop the worst effects of global warming, and we need solutions. Hosted by me, Molly Wood, How We Survive dives deep into the economics, the tech, and the human stories behind those solutions. From billionaires trying to monopolize lithium mines to business rivalries so fierce that one CEO was dragged off a plane by federal authorities. How We Survive, following the money to the end of the world because our survival might depend on it. Listen on Odyssey and everywhere you get your podcasts.
Hi, it's Tamara Day from HGTV's Bargain Mansions. Life moves fast. When you're house hunting, remodeling, and more, make the most of your time by contacting local lender Nutter Home Loans. I trust these home loan experts who have been independently owned for over 70 years. Ask about their no-cost home loan pre-approval or cashback refinance. It really is better at Nutter.
NutterHomeLoans.com. Not a commitment to lend. Loans available to qualified borrowers. James B. Nutter & Company, DBA Nutter Home Loans, NMLS 2067.
And now, we should get stunned.
It doesn't take much to surprise this bouncing baby boy.
This is honestly the most stunned I have ever been on the show to a news.
The DA show is stunned to a news.
This one is courtesy of loyal listener and tweeter Steve Moskowitz. Bill Fisher of Fargo, North Dakota, has a squirrel problem. When he returned from a 4-day work trip, he discovered that his Chevy Avalanche was full of black walnuts. The actual nut, not a promiscuous large bird. These walnuts are roughly the size of limes, by the way, so they're big nuts in this guy's car. And they were everywhere inside this truck. The engine, the fenders, every nook, every cranny had a black walnut or 2 or 3 or 7 in it. Fisher needed 7 6-gallon containers to hold all the walnuts he removed from his truck. Sean's not here. I'll do the math. 7 times 6 is 4,294 gallons of nuts in this guy's Avalanche. And apparently this is not a new problem. It happens every 2 years when the nuts grow on his neighbor's tree. This time he moved his truck away from the tree, hoping the squirrels would find a new storage bin, but they still went to his truck and he says set a record on walnuts deposited, almost as if they were proving a point by putting more than usual in the truck after he used it.
First of all, I love Animal Stunned to a News. This has become kind of like the go-to thing. We have a whole new hobby here as Animals Done to a News. These squirrels are really strong because these walnuts are really big, and there's so many of them. How did they possibly collect all of these walnuts and get them in the car? They got into the engine. They got into all the different cracks and crannies of the chassis. I mean, these squirrels are amazing. These guys are workaholics. How can we hire these guys to edit audio for us or book guests for us?
And there seems to be a pretty strong level of spite involved in this as well. I don't know if squirrels are physically capable of that emotion, but it certainly seems like they were trying to prove a point. Like, we're putting a nut anywhere we can after you moved your truck away from our tree.
This is so awesome. These squirrels in Fargo are just killing it. They're like steroid squirrels, lifting huge walnuts and just shoving them anywhere they can inside this truck out of spite. He led the Raiders to 5 postseasons in 6 years in the 80s, and it is really cool to see him in Canton these days. Joining us this morning here on the show is the legendary Tom Flores. Tom, good morning, and congratulations on finally getting that call to the Hall.
Yeah, it's been quite a year. As I said, it's so many things have happened this year, and then I didn't need any more excitement. And now all of a sudden we have this thing coming out with John resigning as head coach, and it's kind of hope it doesn't get too much more uglier.
How'd you feel when you read his emails?
I didn't read any emails. I just heard about it and watched the NFL networks and the sports and listened to some of the shows. And so I don't have all the information. I'm not privy to everything that goes on in that building anymore like I used to be. But I haven't commented. I haven't commented much at all. The only thing I've commented is that, I hope this does not destroy everything that the Raiders have stood for since Al Davis took over. The minority issues, the inclusive issues. Al he loved the game of football, and he did everything he could to make the game of football better. Sometimes he always did it his way, whether you liked it or not. But he was that kind of guy, and I don't want to destroy that legacy.
Understandably so. I mean, the Raiders have stood for so many great things because, as I mentioned before, first minority head coach in NFL history, that was you. First African-American head coach in NFL history, that was Art Shell. First high-ranking female executive, Amy Trask. All Raiders decisions, all Al Davis decisions. So is it disappointing to know that there was somebody representing the Raiders who definitely did not share that type of respect of different cultures?
Yeah, that's true. And the thing is, you got to realize that Al actually hired John before the first time around, and then they were successful together. But there was something, I guess, that was in the background. Maybe Al knew about it then. Who knows? When he traded him to anybody ever been traded before as a head coach?
That's a good question. The Buccaneers gave up a couple of number ones for Gruden. Maybe Parcells was traded. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's a rarity.
Yeah, well, that's the Raiders.
That's right. Yeah, that's the Raiders, always breaking convention. So yeah, that was the disappointing thing for me, at least, was that the Raiders have always stood for inclusion, diversity, respecting of different cultures and backgrounds, and didn't feel like John Gruden represented that at all, judging from his comments. So that to me was disappointing.
Very disappointed. I was disappointed. Nowadays with all of the media outlets that you have, and the emails and the Facebook, and I don't even know. Now I hear Facebook is for grandparents. So, so that's the one. I heard a kid being interviewed, and he was asking. It was Nate on CBS, and he was asking his daughter, and she said, "Oh, Facebook, that's for grandparents."
That's pretty funny. Did you feel that weight of being the first minority head coach in the NFL, or was that not something that you really considered when you got the job?
I never considered it. The only weight I ever felt was from Al. Al was a tough guy to work for because of what he demanded, and he worked right along with you. But Al didn't know it. He hired me because he thought I could win for him, and I had been a quarterback for him. I'd been an assistant coach with John Madden for 7 years and helped us win a Super Bowl there. So obviously he thought I had the experience, football experience, not the head coaching experience, because you never know what you're getting into when you become a head coach. I mean, it's unlike any position that I've ever had. I mean, the pressure involved, and a lot of the pressure is put on you by yourself. The pressure to win is overwhelming.
Especially who you followed, John Madden, who had won tons of games in the Super Bowl, were in the playoffs all the time, and you had big shoes to fill. Did you know John Gruden at all?
No. I did not know John, even though he coached at my former college, the College of Pacific, University of Pacific in Stockton, when they were playing football. He was an assistant coach there. And he always said, "Come on, let's talk COP football." And we never got a chance to talk it, but we always got along pretty well. I mean, we always shared a lot of pleasantries, and he did a good job the first time around with the Raiders. Of course, the first time you have to realize the first time around, there was that guy there still, Al Davis, and Al was at his peak. So Al was a football man, a real football owner.
So fair to say you were surprised then when you saw these comments that John Gruden had made, because you didn't have any sense of him feeling this way.
Yeah, I didn't. I was very surprised. I was very surprised, and like you said, very disappointed that he would do that. I just, so I didn't make any comment. I can't comment on that because that's something that is so delicate, right? Especially this day and age, that why you're better left said, leave it alone, other than the respect and the things that deserve respect and attention.
I have to imagine, as Tom Flores joins us, two-time Super Bowl champion for the Raiders and a Pro Football Hall of Fame head coach, I have to imagine Mark Davis is pretty crestfallen these days, because it always felt like Mark really was in love with John Gruden and worked so hard to bring him back to the Raiders and gave him that huge contract, that for it to end like this and for John to say those things, my guess is Mark's kind of heartbroken right now. What do you think their relationship was like?
Well, that was Mark's guy. There's no question. He made it pretty obvious when he fired Jack Del Rio. I thought Jack did a good job bringing the team back into the limelight, into the playoffs, and with bringing the team back, the team spirit back. So he had to be really enamored with Gruden, and that had to be his guy. So that was his, like he said, a dream. Like I read one article, it was a dream come true for him. He got it back. He never had any issues with Gruden like Al did, I guess. And for him to go through this experience right now, devastated. I feel bad. I hope it's not that bad of a mark on Mark, because Mark hired him because he felt he could win, and I don't know that Mark was aware of all this other stuff behind closed doors.
When you were hired in 1979 or promoted in 1979 to head coach, was there a lot of attention? Was there a lot of media coverage on the fact that you were the first minority head coach in NFL history?
No, I don't even know if there was any mention of it, really. Some people would ask me, I said, really? I said, And I remember Al and I having a conversation once when we were already down in Los Angeles. We had already made the move to L.A., and that was when Al realized that the Hispanics were really, really Raider fans, and a lot of it was because of myself and Jim Plunkett. And in L.A., there were a lot of Hispanics in the stands and in the streets and wearing silver and black. So that's when he realized it, and I said, and that's when I started realizing it. I didn't really think about it. I said, I'm a coach. I was before that. I was a player for 10 years, and that's why I'm in the game. I'm not in the game because I'm a Hispanic.
Let me ask you before I let you go. The AFC West this year is so interesting. It's so competitive. The Chargers are really good. The Raiders started out hot. The Chiefs are defending AFC champions. Even the Broncos started out 3-0. What was the rivalry in the AFC West, or maybe it was the Steelers, I'm not sure. What was the rivalry that you guys had that you couldn't stand the opponent most? What was the most intense rivalry you guys had when you were there?
Well, probably the most intense rivalry was the Steelers. Because we played them during the season. We would play them when they switched over to the American Football Conference, and then it seemed like every year when we were playing them in the playoffs at some point, the Steelers and the Dolphins. That was a huge rivalry. The intensity of that rivalry, the physicality of that rivalry was just awesome. People loved it. The Steeler fans respected the Raider fans, and vice versa. And the other rivalry, but we had a big rivalry in the AFL. See, I'm an old AFL guy, American Football Conference, American Football League. And I hated for us to lose our identity because we were very proud of 10 years of existence. There were only 20 guys in that whole era that lasted 10 years in the league.
Oh, wow.
And there are a lot of Hall of Famers in that league. Jim Otto was my center when we first started with the Raiders in 1960. Were you born then?
I was not, but I'm thoroughly impressed that there were 20 guys that played the entire decade of the AFL, huh?
Yeah, Jim Otto and I were two of them, and we were both in the Hall of Fame. George Blanda was another one.
Yeah.
So, on and on. There's a lot of history involved, and the game as it is right now, I don't know that it would be the same without the American Football League. It certainly changed the complexion of the game. So it was exciting those years. We didn't even know if we were going to get paid those years. There was a lot of stories about the AFL.
The legacy of the AFL lasts forever. Wide open offenses and a passing offense, and creating the merger, which created an AFC and NFC. There is a lot of legacy, colorful personalities, colorful teams, indoctrinating African Americans into leadership positions, quarterbacks, middle linebackers. That did not happen to the NFL, and you guys in the AFL were pioneers in that. So I think the AFL proudly has an incredible impact and legacy on today's NFL.
Yeah, and the fact that the question you asked earlier about Hispanic, when we were in LA, and it was during the off season, once I was a guest in I can't even remember where it was, but I was a guest down in the south part of the country, and this young man came up to me and said, "My dad cried when you won your first Super Bowl." And I said, "What?" He said, "My dad cried." I said, "Whoa, why?" He said he was so proud. He's a Mexican American. He was. I said, "I don't know your dad." He said, "That's right," but he was so proud that you had won, and so he sat in front of the TV and cried. Now that got my attention.
That's powerful. Tom Flores is a Pro Football Hall of Fame head coach, also spent, as he said, a decade playing in the AFL. He has an assistant coach championship. He has 2 as a head coach as well, and he has an incredible legacy in the NFL. Coach, this is really phenomenal to have spent some time with you. I know that you haven't done interviews this week in the wake of the John Gruden thing, so thank you for finding time for us and opening up about that. That was really special for me. I appreciate that very much.
Okay, well, I appreciate you bringing out some of these things that need to be talked about. If you're going to talk about it, if you're going to criticize, then know what you're criticizing.
Well said. Thank you, Tom.
Okay. All right, you bet.
Okay.
All right, and next time, call me a little later in the day, for crying out loud.
Okay, we'll factor that in.
I'm going to roll. I'm going to go back to bed. I'll talk to you guys. Bye.
Okay, see you later.
I'm a what?
A wizard. Who's the Wizard of Odds? It's D.A.
It's the Wizard of Odds. Wizard of Odds. The odds are that you'll be a winner today. The Wizard is here, make you feel okay. Hey, 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 hey.
Okay, well, the Wizard last week went 1-2-1. I nailed Kentucky, beating the brakes off of LSU. I got the push last week when it came to Packers and Bengals. I thought the Packers would win by more than a field goal. That, of course, did not happen. Looked good early, looked terrible late. And then in the middle of that, I figured that Alabama was going to crush Texas A&M. That didn't happen. I thought that BYU would run away from Boise State. That didn't happen. So 1-2-1 was the record last week. But I will tell you, I feel much more confident this week. And so the Wizard has 4 picks today, 2 college, 2 NFL, and I like what I'm seeing here. Let's start in the college ranks. Alabama, Mississippi State. Now, the Bulldogs average over 30 points, or about 28 points a game, rather, just under 30. Bama averages 44 points a game. If you combine the two, That's an average scoring margin of about 70 points, 71 points or so. Vegas has the total at 57.5. Bang the over. I'm telling you. That's right. Take the over on 57.5. Bama's coming off the loss. They're going to be super focused. You know that they got a huge practice weekend because, of course, the one and only Nick Saban, the other wizard, is going to be all over them chewing their butts out. Mississippi State, they're at home. They've got air raid offense. Mike Leach is going to have to put up points. He wants to put on a show. Primetime at home in Stark Vegas, and you're giving me 57.5 as the total? Give me the over. Damn it. There we go. This damn wand. Okay. Other college game. Friday night football tonight. Syracuse and Clemson from the Carrier Dome. I have been loath to bet on my alma mater or against my alma mater, knowing there could be an inherent bias. But tonight, Clemson's favored by 13.5 points. I'm telling you this right now. SU only plays close games. They are far better than we thought coming into the season off of a one-win season last year. Clemson's way worse than we thought. A Friday night at the Carrier Dome, we just saw Wake Forest, perhaps the best team of the ACC, nearly lose to Syracuse last week. They needed overtime. We saw Syracuse go to Florida State and nearly beat the Seminoles. They're playing all these close games, and they're getting 13.5 at home. DJ Uiagalelei, quarterback of the Clemson Tigers, can't move the football. Syracuse can run the football. Their dual-threat quarterback, Garrett Schrader, ran for over 100 yards last week. And they've got a running back in Sean Tucker, who might be the best in the ACC, one of the best in the nation. They could run the football. I think Syracuse stays within double digits. I think this is more like a 7 to 9 point game. I'm getting 13.5. Give me SU plus 13.5 tonight. Those are my college picks. Okay, over to the NFL. Cardinals and Browns. This is Kyler versus Baker, two college teammates. Remember, Baker Mayfield was the starter, and Kyler couldn't surpass him on the depth chart. So he had to wait his turn. Kyler's going to want to outduel Baker Mayfield coming up on Sunday. Also, in crunch time, who do you like? Kyler Murray or Baker Mayfield? Advantage Kyler Murray. And while the Cardinals are banged up, Pro Bowler Rodney Hudson is out, Max Williams done for the year, Cleveland's dealing with major injuries. Right tackle Jack Conklin down with a knee injury, Jedrick Willis ankle injury. Backups are going to probably have to start. Rookies are going to have to start in protecting Mayfield to the offensive line. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt missed multiple practices this week. I've got the Cardinals as an undefeated team on the road getting 3.5. If it was only 3, I'd probably stay away, but I get the hook, meaning that 3, if the Browns win by a field goal, I still win. Give me the Cardinals and Kyler Murray plus 3.5. Now this wand is working. And then finally, this one's a little off the board. This is a player prop, but I feel really good about this. The Houston Texans, are taking on the Colts. Colts just played on Monday night, all right? Now, last week against the Patriots, actually, the Texans had a chance to win that football game, except they gagged it away a million different ways. Terrible coaching, blah, blah, blah. What else is new? But Davis Mills, the young QB fourth rounder, threw for more than 300 yards. He went for 310 and 3 touchdowns. If you were watching that game last Sunday, he was pretty impressive. And the one thing the Patriots can do is stop the pass. They have a very good secondary, J.C. Jackson. That's why they can afford to get rid of Stephon Gilmore. They've got good secondary players. They got a good pass rush as well. The Colts secondary's beaten up. Lamar Jackson just threw for 400 yards against the Colts. Short week for the Colts. And the over on his passing total is 209.5. I'm telling you, Davis Mills has thrown for more than 210 passing yards in this game. So give me Davis Mills and the over on 209.5 passing yards. Those are the picks, and you got to admit, they sound pretty good. The Wizard of Oz!
It's a Friday fiesta. Here's what our listeners in the Target demo are up to.
That's right. It's Target Demo Friday. Here's Senor Pantleg, who tweets, MLB eliminating the Giants because they desperately need whatever Dodgers name recognition they could get for the ratings. Otherwise, it's, what is ya? What is ya at all? Target Demo Friday.
What is ya? What is ya at all? Los Angeles Dodgers.
Derek tweets, I'm in Glen Burnie, Maryland, Odyssey app. Hey, that's the home of Little Mo. I only watch WFT when playoff baseball's on broadcast TV. I'll watch. And my Wizards this weekend. Love the show. Target Demo Friday.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Tom is in New Hampshire listening on the SiriusXM app. I'm riding with the Wizard of Odds football picks this weekend. I'm going to spend the winnings on all the beer and buffalo wings I can handle. Hashtag, come on, Damon, wake up.
Dodgers.
Fern Rose tweets, we're in Vegas listening on the CBS radio app. We are celebrating our 1-year anniversary of marriage. No ball on Sunday. Hashtag Target Demo Fridays.
How many beers ago? Probably 1,000. Brewskis.
Eric tweets, I'm watching the show on Twitch as always, the DC Metro. It's okay, DA. We're not here to judge. But I hear that PETA wants to have a word with you. Hashtag have fun with your bird marriage. Target Demo Friday.
Celebrating with some brewskis.
Jeffrey
Have
says,
some fun with your marriage.
Yo, DA, listening to the show from Philly on Odyssey with my Eagles having lost last night. Maybe I'll spend Sunday at the zoo chatting with a crane or two. Hashtag beam me up. Backwards Brian tweets, I'm listening on SiriusXM 206 from Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Going to go to my college homecoming game tomorrow. Looking for my Hawks to go 6-1. Might even make some breakfast nachos on Sunday. Target Demo Freddy.
You hear me now? The Giants, baby.
Delbert the Degenerate says, what's up? It's Delbert. Me and my friend Jacqueline. Like NC State laying 4 and Michigan State -4 and Florida laying 11. That's Degenerate Delbert's picks. Target Demo Friday.
So good. Yeah. So good. He's the best.
Bill is on Facebook, listing on Twitch in Appleton, Wisconsin. Bears fan living in Packerland. Looking forward to Sunday, watching the game with a bunch of Packer fans. Almost as bad as impregnating a crane. Hashtag cheap cheap. Hashtag unpipe it.
Unpipe it!
And that's your Target Demo Friday.
Ho, ho, ho.
Celebrating with some brewskis. Brewskis. The Giants, baby. Dodgers. Los Angeles Dodgers.
So good. Yeah. So good. He's the best.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
CBS is spectacular, yeah! I'm not kidding! Somebody get cold water!
And that's just like an avalanche of drops dumped on your head right before we're out for the weekend. Perfect time. Senor Panleg adds, I've been walking around the house the last 2 days saying, I'm a machine of death to myself. I don't even know what it means, and I can't stop. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm the same way. I don't know what that means either. That was a caller a while ago that called up and just proclaimed himself a machine of death.
A machine of death.
But that was also the guy that called up that said, top to bottom is not my fault. And
what is you? What is you at all?
I think the entire world should be for babies.
If the baby can't breathe, then what is you? What is you at all? You ain't nothing but a black hole.
You ain't nothing but a black hole. Whatever
You should
that.
be able to have a baby everywhere on earth, top to bottom, and if you cannot achieve that, then you are a machine of death.
This show embraces the absurdity, embraces the nonsense, it embraces the more absurd the caller is. Backwards Brian tweets, "Yep, DA, Kyle Drake out of the job. Bad baseball karma for the Giants. Hashtag Booskies."
The Giants, baby. Booskies.
Okay, let's get to your epic fail of the morning, boys and girls. We did a throwback epic fail today. 2 years ago today. 2 years ago. So this was on this date, October the 15th, 2019, was the morning Mraz didn't realize whether bears had tails or not. Here it is, your epic fail.
Even the DA show is not perfect. We know. Shocking. Here's the epic fail.
They're little stub tails. They're not long tiger tails.
Oh, no, those are just the big bears. The polar bears have tails, I think.
Is that right?
Or the grizzly bears. There's bears with tails.
Those grizzly bears.
Oh.
Hey.
Big bear. No. You guys know what I mean.
No, grizzly bears and polar bears don't have any tails.
I got that polar bear with the tail over here.
Look, the point is this supposed tiger has a bear's face. You're focusing on the tail.
Okay.
So Todoro might make a good slice. They make a pretty crummy tiger.
Big Bear, chase! Big Bear, chase! What is he saying? What? Big Bear, chase me!
So lost.
He even got bare legs.
Hey, I just saw a bear outside my back porch over here.
Got a giant tail.
Long tail over here. Those grizzly bears.
There are definitely bears with long tails.
Smushed face bear.
Oh.
Why are you so convinced the tiger has a longer tail than a bear to begin with?
I know animal anatomy.
When was the last time you went face-to-face with a tiger? You tell me. You do some own personal research. I've been to the safari at Six Flags.
And you've seen long tails on bears?
I had to have, yes.
I don't know.
I had to.
Now you're questioning it.
No, I saw the bears with the tails.
Is that right?
And I'm not convinced the tigers have the long tails. The lions have it.
So
the
now,
lions have the tail.
Okay, so now we're at the point where bears definitely have long tails and tigers might not.
With this knowledge background that he has, he can't possibly get anything that would be like a week day-to-day gig like you have. It's impossible.
Yeah, I just think that you're so convinced because you read a couple books that suddenly you know you're watching Nat Geo channel, suddenly you know what you're talking about. I've gone into the wilderness there. I've seen it.
Yeah, you've gone to the Six Flags Safari.
That's the wilderness. That's not a zoo because you have to stay in your car. That's how dangerous it is.
And you remember tigers with short tails and bears with long tails.
Definitely the bears with the long tails. I'm trying to think of the tigers now. And they are scary-looking animals. You don't want to look for too long in the eyes. They'll jump on your windshield.
Epic fail, you loser.
That is why you fail.
Epic fail. This conversation was preceded because that was the weekend I went down to Clemson for my college football road trip. My first time down in Clemson, we went to go see, I think it was Clemson, Florida State, if I'm not mistaken. It was. And Clemson whitewashed them. It was Trevor Lawrence. They were defending national champions, and they just crushed them. And there's a great pizza place down there, Todaro's Pizza, that loves the show. They listened to the show. They invited me and the buddies that I was with over to the pizza place. We sat in there. We met the whole staff, had a few pies, had a pitcher of beer. It was great, and they gave us T-shirts. And it was Clemson Tiger T-shirts. It was orange. And they wanted everybody to have a T-shirt, so they gave one for me for Mraz, one for Bogues, one for Pete the Body Bilotti. They're huge fans of the show. Really nice of them. And I brought it back, and of course it's not like the official Clemson logo because they're a pizza place. They can't be officially, can't use the Clemson logo. So they made their own tiger logo, like with a pizza pie. And the tiger has a long tail on it, of course. And Mraz goes, these are nice T-shirts, but why is there a bear on it? I said, why is there a bear on it? That's a tiger. He's like, well, what are the tiger for? I go, the Clemson Tigers. He's like, no, that's a bear. I said, how often have you ever seen a bear with a long tail? And that's how we got into this. You remember how ridiculous this was, AB?
Oh, I remembered everything except that he was Andrew Dice Clay confused by animals. I forgot that the accent was there for some reason. So that was startling to hear the entirety of that clip. But yeah, I mean, just the idiocy of his argument, too, through all of that, because he'd been to Six Flags, and he assumes he saw a bear with tail. And what do you know, because you haven't been in the jungle recently, as if I can't watch a tiger show on TV or look up a picture on the internet of what a tiger looks like to see that it has long tails.
Awful. The whole thing was just mind-bendingly awful. On Facebook, Jonathan writes, listening on the Odyssey app from Lake Charles, Louisiana, the Wizard of Oz theme song has me going back to the 80s and watching BJ and the Bear reruns. Going to my alma mater this weekend, Grambling State's homecoming this Saturday with the family. Beam me up, bro! And Peter's in Cape Coral, Florida, listening on Sirius XM 206. Going to celebrate good times with National Cheese Curd Day. Good burgers and booskies. That'll do it for us this morning here on the DA Show. Thanks to Connor Green, executive producer. Great job this week filling in for Mraz. Thanks to Pete the Body Bellotti on the Wheels of Steel and audio director. Thanks to Andrew Bogish on your headlines. And thanks to Andrew Kaplan, the Wizard of Watch DA. Be good and be good to one another. I'll see you on Sunday for Sunday Morning Football. Jim McMahon will join us. The Mothership Disconnect.
Booskies! When you're ready to buy your next car, check out OneRequest. With inventory from nearly every dealer in the country, OneRequest offers a greater selection than other sites that are limited to only the dealers that pay to advertise. And at OneRequest, we don't sell or share your personal contact information. The other sites think your information is valuable, and that's why they sell it. We think it's valuable to you, and that's why we don't. Don't just search for your next car. OneRequest it. Visit OneRequest.com today.
Calling all cars! Park & Go's incredible new facility is ready to assist with your KCI airport parking needs. Hey, it's Bob Fesco. Park & Go specializes in convenience for the traveler. I had a great experience with Park & Go. You get free shuttles, help with luggage, and free bottled water. Plus, Park & Go has covered parking. Join their frequent parker program and earn points towards free parking. Active military get free parking through the end of the year as well. Reserve your spot today at bookparkandgo.com. Best deals in parking. Bookparkandgo.com. Park & Go. Family owned and operated.
This is Sean Barber, a.k.a. Barbershop.
And this is Matt McGinnis from the McGinnis Group. We specialize in insurance and financial services.
The thing I know about the Chiefs and this team is together, everyone achieves more. And since I've been with the McGinnis Group, I've seen with my own eyes what makes them different than any other broker. They have the best staff and the most talented and knowledgeable consultants in the business. And we truly work the hardest for our clients to better our KC.
It's insurance renewal time, so call 913-831-0999.